Fox News alert on the investigation into the targeted shooting of Republicans, which left House Majority Whip Steve Scalise in critical condition. Good morning to you. I'm John Scott.
And I'm Heather Childers. This time yesterday, thought he was going to be okay.
Yeah, the reports are a lot different today.
Yeah, we're still praying for him, though. The president and the vice president both visiting Congressman Scalise in the hospital, and his injuries, as we just said, are worse than first reported. The bullet that hit his hip also injuring internal organs, but doctors still expect him to make a full recovery. Now, the attack lasted 10 horrifying minutes and injured 4 other people. One witness describing the harrowing scene.
They started shooting at me. I was pinned down in right field, and at that point I got struck in the leg and made a run for it. I was running for my life, got into the dugout, and I was bleeding pretty badly, but I was really just trying to keep my head down, keep everybody's heads down, and prevent anything else from happening. You know, we didn't know what was going on. There's a lot of uncertainty, and we were just trying to stay alive.
In the meantime, we are getting some more information about the gunman who was killed and when Capitol Police officers returned his fire. 66-year-old James Hodgkinson was a Bernie Sanders supporter who had several run-ins with the police. He also had a long history of lashing out at Republicans on social media and recently relocated to the Virginia area. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is live for us from Washington with more. Catherine?
Thank you, Heather. The FBI says they believe the suspect got to the Virginia area as early as March, and since he's been living out of a white cargo van. Speaking to Fox 5 in D.C., a former mayor of Alexandria said he saw Hodgkinson on a regular basis at the Y near the ball field, and nothing seemed off.
I knew he was new to, at least to the Y, didn't know where he lived, and then he said, yeah, I just moved to the area, and I don't remember where he said he was from. He may not have even offered it up, but I didn't bother asking. And so then he said, yeah, Alexandria's a very nice place. I really like it here.
But a Facebook page bearing the suspect's name includes photos of Bernie Sanders as well as anti-Trump rhetoric reading, "Trump is a traitor. Trump has destroyed our democracy. It's time to destroy Trump and company." At this hour, the ATF is tracing 2 weapons, a shotgun and a rifle, as a neighbor of the suspect, James Hodgkinson, tells Fox about an incident in Belleville, Illinois last March that only stopped after police were called in.
He pointed the rifle towards the center of the timber back there and started shooting across the field, you know, and it was a high-powered rifle, and I thought, good grief, there's houses over there.
On special report last night, 2 lawmakers at the ball practice described how the suspect moved methodically and systematically across the field to pin them down.
He was calculated about how that
when you say he was herding you into one spot, explain that, because I've not heard that before.
Well, there was only one entrance into the park, and once you're in that park and on the field, you're inside of a fence. And the only way out is through this one entrance by the first base dugout. And so he starts down on the left field line along third base and starts shooting. So where do people run? We run towards the exit, we run towards the dugout,
right,
and you try to take cover. And then he starts maneuvering closer to that spot.
The FBI remains the lead agency, and they remain focused on the timing and the motive, Heather.
Gunfire for 10 minutes. Catherine Herridge, live for us. Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.
And in the aftermath of the shooting, calls for unity from both sides of the political aisle.
I ask each of you to join me to resolve to come together, to lift each other up, and to show the country, to show the world that we are one house, the people's house, united in our humanity. It is that humanity which will win the day, and it always will.
I prayed for Barack Obama, and now I continue to pray for him, and I pray for Donald Trump, that his presidency will be successful and that his family will be safe, because it is about family.
In that same speech, Nancy Pelosi said she agreed with the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, not something she said that you hear me say very often. Will this bipartisanship last? Joining us now, Carol Lee, White House correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. Is that a possibility? Could the bipartisanship that has broken out on Capitol Hill, could it last more than the rest of this week?
Well, we don't know. If you look back historically, this is no. The answer would be no, it won't last. We've seen moments like this before where, there's some sort of tragedy that unifies the parties and has all politicians talking much more civilly. And then, a couple days go by or a week and everything is kind of back to business as usual. I think the question here is whether, this sticks, and if so, for how long, and that's going to be up to the parties and the leaders on Capitol Hill and the president. We've had the political rhetoric has been heated for quite some time. The campaign was obviously extremely heated, and that hasn't really toned down. And while everyone is talking in these much more unifying sort of tones right now, eventually the Democrats and Republicans are going to have to get back to business, and they're going to start debating issues again. And what we've seen in the past is that the sort of unity that is we're seeing now tends to be fleeting.
I read one piece yesterday that noted that normally after these well-publicized shooting events, there are cries, usually from the Democrat side of the aisle, for more gun control or new and improved gun control. That hasn't really happened this time, and the speculation was that it's because it was a member of the legislative body who was shot. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, if you remember, Gabby Giffords was also a member of Congress, and when she was shot, and we saw similar kinds of, softening the tones, and there was a much different kind of demeanor, and the debates were a little more civil. But again, that was fleeting, and it didn't last. And it's arguably, it's only gotten worse since then, the political discourse. Yeah,
Steve Scalise in worse shape than we had originally been led to believe, but the doctors have said he will make a full recovery. What happens to his job in the meantime? Will there be someone taking over as temporary whip, or will he return to that job eventually? Is it too soon to know?
Well, I think it's too soon to know, but certainly, we've heard from Republican leadership that they are going to continue to do the work, and I think everyone right now is just focused on him and when he'll be back, and that he makes a full recovery.
Let's turn our attention to one of the other big stories in Washington right now. Reports that Special Counsel Robert Mueller is widening the Russia probe and is looking into whether President Trump tried to obstruct justice. This is a report in the Washington Post. Again, it's a bunch of anonymous sources talking about this. Just give us your thoughts on the possibility of going after the nation's chief executive for obstruction of justice.
Well, it's almost, in some ways, it's not surprising that Mueller would be looking into this, because the president kind of set this up when he fired the FBI director Comey, and then said that part of the reason for his firing was related to this Russia investigation. Then that was compounded by revelations that he had some private conversations with Director Comey and some of his top intelligence officials, where some of them felt that maybe it was inappropriate, or he was trying to apply pressure. So, this is one of those situations where, for Republicans particularly, this is really frustrating, because they see it as a self-inflicted wound by the president, meaning there was always an investigation into Russia and the influencing the election, and whether there was any collusion with the Trump campaign. And that was a separate piece. And now this added piece is by the president's own doing. And I think, we've heard Republican leaders say that the president should just step back and let this unfold, and that his best vindication is going to be if he allows the investigation to proceed in a thorough way and just takes a step back from that. That's not what the president clearly wants to do. He was tweeting this morning and saying that this is a politically motivated witch hunt, and then he genuinely believes that and is very frustrated with it.
As president, though, I mean, if one of his underlings or former underlings were convicted in a court of law, he has the power to pardon that person. So how does it become obstruction of justice if he says to the FBI director, go easy on Mike Flynn?
Well, that's that's what they're going to be looking into. But certainly, it's unusual for any president to, be involved in or raise questions about or speak publicly about any FBI investigation. You saw that with the President Obama when there were FBI investigations. The White House was very careful not to try to not talk publicly about them or be seen in any way as intervening. And so you just have a very unusual. This is highly unusual. You have a president who sees an investigation into Russia and what happened in the election as something that is targeting him and politically motivated against him, and it's really clouded his presidency in a way that no one could have really imagined.
But again, quoting from that Washington Post piece, 5 people briefed on the interview requests, speaking on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the matter publicly, and on and on and on. So the leaking continues in Washington, and that is a huge frustration to this administration.
Yes, and that's when and they've continued to focus on that. Look, we're reporters. Reporters like leaks. That's what we do, and what we hope for. But for the White House, this has been extremely frustrating, and you've seen them continuously point to the leaks as part of evidence to back up their claim that this is a politically motivated investigation and that there are people who are politically driven to undermine the president.
And, looking at the politics of it, I mean, there were a lot of people who thought that Loretta Lynch might have said to Jim Comey, hey, we're not going to prosecute Hillary Clinton. That would be politically motivated, and that could be seen as obstruction of justice. And that's what the President Trump complains about, that he feels that he is being held to a different standard.
He does, and he also just, has felt, if you step back, since he's come into office, this investigation has been, it's on, if it's not daily, it's weekly, there's some new revelation, and it's just really tied his hands in terms of him being able to keep his focus on his own message, for his White House to push its agenda on Capitol Hill, or, talk about something differently. And in some ways, the president often will make news or insert himself or say things or tweet things that keep this as a focus instead of staying on his message, which many in his White House would really like him to do.
Yeah, his own tweets can interfere with his own messaging. Interesting.
For sure.
Carol Lee from the Wall Street Journal, the White House correspondent there. Carol, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Justin, the parents of an American college student recently released from a North Korean prison, speaking out this morning about their son, Otto Warmbier's medical condition after 15 months in captivity.
My wife, Cindy, is at Otto's side this morning, as she has been since the moment he returned to Ohio. She wanted me to tell you that she knows that Otto is a fighter, and she and I firmly believe that he fought to stay alive through the worst that the North Koreans could put him through in order to return to the family and community he loves.
Ellison Barber is live for us in Wyoming, Ohio, near Cincinnati, with the latest. Ellison?
Otto's father, Fred Warmbier, stood in front of the podium and spoke to a packed room. He held back tears as he spoke about his son, who he described as sweet, loving, and kind. He also said he was wearing the same jacket Otto wore at his North Korean trial in 2016.
Thrilled that our son is on American soil. We're in the school that he thrived in, and I'm able to talk to you on Otto's behalf, and I'm able to wear the jacket.
There's still a lot we don't know about Warmbier's condition. His father said that the regime brutalized and terrorized him. A spokesperson for the hospital currently treating him says he's in stable condition.
I can tell you that today at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, Otto is in stable condition but has suffered a severe neurological injury.
When Warmbier landed late Tuesday night, an ambulance met him on the tarmac and took him to a Cincinnati hospital. Otto Warmbier traveled to North Korea back in January of 2016. Police detained him at the airport in Pyongyang after he allegedly stole a propaganda poster from the walls of his hotel.
Do you believe my son needed a used car? Do you believe he's not even a member of the church that he was accused of stealing a banner from?
A State Department official says the North Korean government informed the U.S. of Warmbier's condition, claiming he was in a coma for a year. Otto's father confirmed that as well here today, but also says he doesn't believe anything the North Koreans have to say.
Personally, North Korea is a pariah regime. They're brutal and they're terroristic. You can't believe anything. Well, it's your choice. We don't believe anything they say. We see the results of their actions with Otto.
He says the president called the family last night to check on everyone. We expect to get a more complete update about his medical condition from doctors later this afternoon. Heather?
Thank you. Ellis and Barbara live.
All right, so if you watched that extraordinary news conference from Fred Warmbier, Otto's father, he gave an awful lot of credit to the Trump administration for putting the pressure on North Korea that ultimately brought the release of his son, even though they just recently, in the last week or so, learned that Otto has apparently been in a coma all of this time. We are awaiting remarks from the president on this new internship program he's pushing. That's just ahead. President Trump wants to get an internship program underway for the nation. Let's listen in as he introduces his thoughts to the American people.
Hey, Mary. Hello, everybody. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for all being here. Before beginning today, I'd like to take a moment to again send our thoughts and prayers to my friend and the friend of most of us in this room, Steve Scalise, and his great family as he continues his very brave fight. It's been much more difficult than people even thought at the time. He's in some trouble, but he's a great fighter and he's going to be okay, we hope. I visited Steve and his family at the hospital last night, and I reassured them that the entire country is pulling for them, praying for them, and that we are here for them every single step of the way. America's hearts, and we mean this in the truest sense, sends its love. We've got a lot of hearts in this country, great hearts, and they're all sending their love and support to the Scalise family. And Steve, in his own way, may have brought some unity to our long divided country. We've had a very, very divided country for many years. And I have a feeling that Steve has made a great sacrifice, but there could be some unity being brought to our country. Let's hope so. While at the hospital, I also visited with Special Agent Crystal Griner, terrific young woman, of the Capitol Police and her family. Crystal is one of the 2 Capitol Police officers who saved so many lives through her heroism, along with Special Agent David Bailey. They ran right into the fire. They ran right into those guns and the bullets, and they saved a lot of lives. America salutes both of their courage. They have great, great courage. We all salute them. We also salute the men and women of the Alexandria Police Fire and Rescue and all of the first responders. The timing and the speed and the professionalism was incredible. They performed with bravery and with skill. Finally, our heartfelt prayers go out to Matt Micah, who was badly wounded in the assault. To Matt's family, anything you need, we are here for you. Hopefully, Matt will be okay. In these difficult hours, it's more important than ever to help each other, care for each other, and remind each other that we are all united by our love of our great and beautiful country. We're joined today by Secretary Acosta, Secretary Ross, and Administrator McMahon as we prepare to make a historic announcement to train Americans for the jobs of the future. We have a lot of companies moving into this country. You see the unemployment rate is at a very, very low level. Job enthusiasm and manufacturing, business enthusiasm is at record levels, never been higher. And a lot of good numbers are coming out, including almost $4 trillion in gain to the stock markets. And since the election, $4 trillion. We just signed a big deal yesterday for hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment and military equipment going to be made in this country, in our country, for other countries. We've got it going. We have to make sure the people are here and they're going to be well trained. So I want to thank my daughter Ivanka and her leadership. She has worked so hard on this. She understands how important it is. We're training people to have great jobs and high-paying jobs. And we're here today to celebrate the dignity of work. It's really a good term, dignity of work, and the greatness of the American worker, which I've been celebrating for a long time. Probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for the American worker. And the American worker sees what's happening in Michigan and in Ohio and in a lot of places that we've had a huge impact on just in a short period of time that I've been here and this administration has been involved. We have a lot of companies moving in. A lot of plants are going to be built. A lot of plants are being expanded. And big ones are going to be announced very soon. We're going to hear some very big names that I can't tell you about now. We want to get them signed on the dotted line. We don't want to talk too quickly. It's called sign them on the dotted line, right? In just a few moments, I'll be signing an executive order to expand apprenticeships and vocational training to help all Americans find a rewarding career, earn a great living, and support themselves and their families, and love going to work in the morning. We will be removing federal restrictions that have prevented many different industries from creating apprenticeship programs. We have regulations on top of regulations, and in history, nobody has gotten rid of so many regulations as the Trump administration. And that's one of the reasons that you see the jobs and the companies all kicking in so strongly. I think some very good numbers are going to be announced, by the way, in the very near future as to GDP. So we're empowering these companies, these unions, industry groups, federal agencies to go out and create new apprenticeships for millions of our citizens. Apprenticeships place students into great jobs without the crippling debt of traditional four-year college degrees. Instead, apprentices earn while they learn, which is an expression we're using, earn while you learn. We're joined today by apprentices who know firsthand how these programs can bring new hope and new opportunities. We're also joined by some of the country's great governors, and I appreciate them very, very much for being here and for being here. We just had a meeting in the cabinet room. Charles Robel is here with us from Wisconsin, where I just left, actually, yesterday. I was with Governor Walker. Charles is a three-time combat veteran who bravely served our nation, highly respected. After Charles came back from the war, he, like so many other Americans, faced very tough economic times. Charles began taking machine tool operation courses from a technical college. He immediately excelled. He was really, really good at it, they say. That's what they say. I haven't checked. Where is Charles?
I think I'm doing okay.
Come here. Charles, they tell me. I haven't checked it. I want to check you out, all right? But he immediately excelled. And by the end of his year-long apprenticeship, Charles will be making more than $60,000 a year and going up a lot higher than that. And he loves what he does. I think you really love it, right? Yeah, he loves it. Charles, we thank you for your service to our country, both in the military and in exactly what you're doing right now, which is so important. And we congratulate you on this exciting new career. And you're going to have some great future. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate it. Each of the apprentices here today has their own story and their own dreams. That's what they are, dreams. Apprenticeships teach striving Americans the skills they need to operate incredible machines, and some of these machines are so intricate, so powerful, and really the word is they are incredible. This is not the old days. This is new and computerized and complicated, and you really have to know what you're doing. But they create amazing products. And to construct skyscrapers that touch the clouds, I mean, you look at the equipment today and just go back 10 years ago and 20 years ago, it's from a different world, from a different planet. It's incredible. I just met with the governors from many of the states to discuss how we can work with them to expand apprenticeships and the apprentice programs. I'm also delighted to be here with CEOs of major companies who support our apprenticeship initiatives. And we had a tremendous number of the biggest CEOs in the world here yesterday. And we talked about this also. And they're fully behind it, including our effort to help millions of talented young American women thrive and flourish in our economy. We are thrilled as well to have with us today Congressman Bobby Scott and Congresswoman Virginia Foxx, who cares so deeply about this effort. Thank you. Thank you very much. The strength of our nation will be determined by our ability to keep jobs in America. And we're going to keep them in America. You're not going to have companies fleeing like in the past. There's going to be a big price to pay for companies that want to leave, fire their workers, build a plant outside of this country and think they're going to sell their product right back into the United States. Going to be a big price to pay. But we want to keep jobs in America, and we want to train people and hire American workers to fill those jobs. And that's exactly what we're doing, and we're really doing a job of it. And I just want to thank all of our secretaries and everybody involved in the process. Not only will our apprentices transform their lives, but they will also transform our lives in the truest sense. Today's apprentices will construct the roads and bridges that move our citizens. They will bend the metal and steel that shape our cities, and they will pioneer the new technology that drives our commerce. But as we train the next generation of Americans to do their jobs, all of us here today have to do our jobs. We have to join forces, join hands, and join together to restore the American dream for all of our people. And one of the parts of the American dream is we're going to come down very, very hard, and we already have. You've seen what's going on the border, on this massive drug problem that we have in the United States, and frankly that other countries have also. And we're coming down very, very hard on it. And if we don't, it's called shame on us. So everybody that's worked so hard on this program and everybody in this room, including the reporters, God bless you. God bless America. And let's go out and let's do a really terrific job with the apprentice program. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is the big one. Right, Linda? Yes, sir.